I can say I am extremely happy to have access to a vehicle this week. So last week we delayed our Monday live, which usually goes at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, but had to push it back because I was kind of struggling to get back home, at least on time, to be able to go live here. And that was because I was doing a week of public transportation. Now, I will say I did 4 days of public transportation as Friday kind of got going and just there was too much going on. So I needed to jump in the truck and kind of make that way. But I'm going to be releasing that video here in the next few weeks. Overall, really enjoyed the experience. I think there's a lot of utility to the public transportation that Fort Collins provides free of charge. There are some frustrations, some limitations, and challenges. So, I would say it's by far not perfect, but far better than what I thought it was. And so this week we are going live. It's the week of 4th of July, so not sure how many folks are going to jump on and join. I'm sure a lot of people are out going and exploring Red Feather like we are going to be doing, or Boyd Lake, which we explored this last weekend. And it was my first time out at Boyd Lake, and it was awesome. It was this beach. I think it was $9 or $10 for the day. We bought some inflatable paddle boards, which are amazing. Not too expensive. I think, $250. And then you bought a pump, which I would actually 100% recommend. Storage, all that good stuff, so we're going to be using those quite a bit moving forward. But I'm sure a lot of people are, either moving towards their 4th of July plans or, in the middle of them. So if you're watching this on rerun, I appreciate you. If you're watching this live, definitely feel free to comment, engage, ask questions. We are going to talk to you guys about a lot of different things today, but really dive in on the work session because it was pretty dense. There was the solar farm that's having issues on Riverside. It's like a community co-op. The budget, 2025-26 budget, kind of starting that process, which we're going to have Travis Soren on the podcast here sooner than later. And he's going to talk in depth about that. So super to have him on the Fort Collins Fellows coming up. There are some good episodes that are making their way down the pipeline on that as well with some amazing guests. And if you have anybody that either A, you have a connection to, or B, you would like to hear on that podcast, comment their name below and we will absolutely try to reach out. Generally, we have relatively decent connections in town to most everybody. But if it's somebody, some odd, not odd, but I would say if it's somebody who we might not have connections with and you're able to provide that connection, that would be great. Just phenomenal information about all things Fort Collins, Northern Colorado. So with that being said, oh man, where was I going with that? Oh, the budget. And then there was capital improvement projects that were discussed and some things that if you live in Fort Collins or moving to the area, are going to see relatively soon. Things that are taking place, completing or under construction or will be completed in the next year or two, which a lot of these budget plans are years and years out and take so much time to from initial concept to going through work sessions, through going through city council, getting the funding, design. I mean, we could be talking decades for a thing like Max Transit, the Southeast Community Center that we'll be talking about a little bit today. But there will be, 17 projects or so that are basically either completed or underway, and we'll see completion here shortly that you will see where those city sales tax dollars are going. But I'm not going to talk too much political, but I will say I'm starting to see some political signs in yards. And I'm guessing once we get past 4th of July, it's going to start getting a little bit more. So good luck to us all as we go through these next, 4 months, having to see commercials and signs. And hopefully all we can do is stay civil, stay engaged, informed, ask questions. And if somebody has an opposing view, that's great. Hopefully we can come to the table, talk, figure out why they feel that way. And on the backside of things, might not have a different opinion, but maybe have a different perspective of why somebody might feel that way. So hopefully you can stay civil over these next 4 months and, let that process take place. Let's see here. Old Fall River Road, which is kind of like Trail Ridge Road's companion, opened up. Trail Ridge Road has been open for about a month, and Old Fall River Road usually opens up beginning of July. And those are opened up for very limited times. It's a one-way, single lane road for about 9 miles. You can't have a vehicle longer than 25 feet or carrying a trailer. There's some pretty steep cliffs. So if you're going to be driving that, be safe, but really enjoy some views. Phenomenal, gorgeous scenery. So you have that opportunity. If you are in and around Rocky Mountain National Park, you do need to schedule your entry. So make sure that you're planning in advance. It's not really a day of thing that you can go up there and make it work. Probably a few days at least would be the better, the best thing. And as far in advance as you can go, that'd be great. So if you're taking a trip, let's say Labor Day weekend should still be open, I think. Well, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't say when it's closing this year, but Labor Day weekend, if you're planning on that, get online, schedule that, and see if you can get that booked. Kind of a no news, in my opinion, but the Denver Zoo changed its name after 128 years. We've been to the Denver Zoo and Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. Cheyenne Mountain Zoo is which is really interesting. So there's the Cheyenne Zoo, which is supposedly pretty cool, the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo, and then the Denver Zoo. Cheyenne Mountain Zoo is in Colorado Springs. The Denver Zoo, which is now going to be referred to as the Denver Zoo Conservation Alliance, DZCA. And I've got a buddy who goes to the Denver Zoo. He has a membership there and goes all the time. Actually lives in Fort Collins, but goes to the Denver Zoo all of the time. And it is a good zoo. It's a cool zoo. But apparently, it's just got a name change to more align with its mission. All righty. Let's see here. Colorado Wolves. Yep, they're making their way. It always seems like they're in the news. We're going through this potential citizen initiative of banning mountain lions and reintroducing wolverines. I guess and then last week I kind of talked down on a little bit of the puppy mills and things of that nature, where there's one retail store in Fort Collins that sources their dogs potentially from puppy mills. And I don't know, bigger fish to fry, but that is some people's passions and some people's livelihoods and desires. So I don't want to necessarily talk too down on that, but I feel like there are more important things. But it seems like wolves are in the news all of the time. Recently I think I saw that they would allow for potential like night hunting of wolves if they were endangering livestock. Let's see here. Colorado Natural Area is expanding by 140 acres. The Prairie Ridge Natural Area is going to expand by 140 acres, and it's also going to be connecting some trail systems, so which will open up in 2026. But it's going to be it's going from 140 acres from Prairie Ridge Natural Area all the way south to 57th Street. Let's see here. Down to 57th Street. All right. Now, oh yeah, this was kind of interesting too. If you are out there specifically, we're going to go on Dowdy Lake paddleboards. If you're tubing down the river, apparently there are some water-related deaths happening at alarming rates. And I could see that. It was super windy the other day when we were at Boyd Lake, and we were very much considering not going out. We ended up going out and just staying really close to the shore. But there was some paddleboarders and boaters that got actually capsized last week. I think 8 individuals, 6 paddleboarders and 2 boaters that had to have fire rescue go out there. And the Poudre River seemingly always, takes 1 or 2 lives a year, if not more. And but right now the water is starting to slow down, starting to move down. So you're going to get into a more safe environment for if you're tubing down the Poudre. But make sure to wear a life vest, go with the group, let people know where you are and what you're doing. All right, now into the city council work session, which they talked about 3 different things. The Riverside Community Solar Project, which if you've driven on Riverside and Mulberry, you've seen it. And it's a collective of 207 owners who it was built in 2015. And it cost them each about $4,000 to get involved with this. And they were benefiting quite a bit. But now it sounds like it's about $200 a year credits back on their utility bill. This to me is what's concerning as far as energy and some of our carbon emissions goals, climate action plans, and things that maybe the technology isn't necessarily there. And that's not to say that you shouldn't push yourself to do it, but like the building performance standards is a grand example of like, I think that could be, severely problematic for the city and building owners of mostly commercial and apartment complexes over 5,000 square feet, and for apartments above 2 stories that all of a sudden have to put in $4 per square foot to retrofit their buildings with, whether it's heat pumps or new windows or a new roof or insulation. And while, very much impactful and meaningful, I think it's going to put a huge drain on and weight on some of these building owners and financial burdens. But this Riverside Solar Project, I was listening to it and I'm just like, what a complete, shit show, for lack of a better word. In August of 2023, there was a critical issue. Basically, a converter, is my understanding, a single point of failure went down and essentially shut down this solar farm, which they sent out to have a look at. The city sent out to have a repair, looked at it for a repair, and ultimately it didn't make sense to do the repair, so they had to do like a retrofit, new rebuild to then create 20 converters, so there's not one single point of failure. So you only have like a 5% loss of solar if one of them goes down in the future, versus losing everything. But there was 207 owners, and I am not going to pretend to know everything that's going on here, but here's my understanding. There was this concept. They got 207 owners together, built this solar farm. Co-op is essentially how I see it, that they owned and operated, and then were able to sell back or get funds from the city utility for their energy production, which I think was around $20,000. But then in 2019 or so, there were some rate changes. And I think the city was like, we are paying way too much. And so we're going to buy out these owners, which there's some I have some confusion there as well, because it doesn't sound like the city necessarily bought everybody out, that the owners still own it. But anyways, it reduced the individuals' credits to about $220 a year. Then in 2023, they had this critical failure and they had some bids out, and then the ultimate bid that came back was for $800,000. And the city is going to use partially of their operational funds of $50,000, and then the rebuild's $300,000. The initial build was $800,000. I'm sorry if I misspoke, but the renovation rebuild is $300,000, and they're going to use $50,000 from the operational budget that was generated from this solar farm, and then they're going to use $250,000 from the newly minted half-cent sales tax that took place, because there's 3 goals with that half-cent sales tax: public parks and recreation, public transportation, and climate action. And it feels very much like the 2007, 2008 big bank failure. Government came in and bailed them out, where the big banks were making all the money and having all the fun, and then when they failed, the government came in and bailed them out. And that's where I'm really confused about this solar farm, that these individuals did make the initial investment, and take that risk, but now it's failed. But I believe the city owns it and they're responsible. But so the city's going to take some tax dollars to make the repairs, which is really the entire city's tax dollars, 180,000th of mine, to go and make this repair for the benefit of 207 owners. So it doesn't sit well. They apparently did a lot of outreach. The return on investment for these 207 owners isn't great, if not even negative. And it's so more of a passion play, a pioneer project. But it leaves a ton of uncertainty, in my opinion, of, these types of projects. And apparently, since 2015 to now, even that technology has gotten so much better. The cost of construction and what it produces, has gotten a ton better. But what I don't like is how, I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me that the city is coming in to write a check for $250,000 and ultimately benefits 207 private owners. And actually there was 2 or 3 of the owners of this, co-op, so to speak, that spoke out and said, yeah, we don't know if we like this either. We don't know if we were a fan of the city coming in and writing a check for kind of our privately held thing. Now, I still am very much confused of, does the city actually own it, or do they buy out the responsibility? Like, what were the legal ramifications? And that's the public-private partnership that, we don't have access to, or at least I'm sure maybe we do, but I haven't necessarily saw myself. So, and then there was a question. So it was built in 2015 and it's 2024. And so it's been in play for 10 years. And then there was a conversation of, okay, so we're going to build back up the reserves in case there's another issue in the future. But what about disposition? And the individual from the city says, well, it's 15 years. And I'm like, 15 years, $800,000, and you have a 25-year lifespan on that? Like, I don't know. That seems not awesome to me. And maybe I'm super far removed, but then they have to potentially recycle and dispose. And I'm sure the costs and, the trash accumulation, and maybe you can recycle a lot of these parts. I don't know. But from an outsider's perspective, and I am seriously considering putting solar on my roof. Now, so if you have solar on your roof and you've got better information, definitely comment below. Let me know how far off base I am. I know that it's much better than it used to be. When I first started and solar was going on, it was like a 30-year payback for solar. And now I think it's like closer to like 7 to 10 years, which makes it a little bit more of an attractive investment. I think it's still very much a passion desire to do of, hey, I'm contributing to the environment. I'm not helping, I'm decreasing carbon emissions. I'm decreasing my carbon footprint, which I think that's super exciting. And honestly, when I was doing the public transportation, I had some of that internal feel as well. Like, hey, my truck has not started once in the last 4 days. And I felt good about that. I hated not having my car at a moment's notice when sometimes I needed it, it felt like, or being stranded at a bus stop and having to walk 2 miles in the rain. So, there's some frustrations there, but there was some good internal feelings. And I feel like that's the same with solar and different energy sources. But again, not a huge fan of this project. It seems to be a very big failure within the city of Fort Collins, and also this private co-op and project. So hopefully there's at minimum, hopefully a lot of learning from it, how to not do this in the future, the maybe missteps that were taken, and how to avoid that moving forward. So if you're one of those owners, I'd be curious what your thoughts are. And if you're not, I'm also curious what your thoughts are as far as, footing the bill, $300,000 that you seemingly won't have any direct benefit from, which here shortly, I'm going to talk about capital improvement projects and the budget. And that's one thing that I was just talking to actually, family about the other day, that I love having really paid attention to and focused on local politics over the last 3 years because I see where the dollars are going. I see where the money's being spent. And when that half-cent sales tax came across the ballot for public transportation, parks and recreation, and climate action, and having had talked with Mike Calhoun of Parks and Rec for the city of Fort Collins, and him telling us that we need these things, and seeing all of the amazing parks that we have, yet we need the maintenance for it. It was so easy for me to agree to that half-cent sales tax with the hopes that we will directly see the benefit of those dollars being spent. And I do feel that we have good fiduciaries, in my opinion, in the city of Fort Collins, spending dollars and really looking at expenses with the magnifying glass to a certain degree. And we'll get into that here right now. So the second point of discussion was the 2025-26 budget process. So this is kind of an extended timeline. I'll share my screen actually with you guys so you guys can kind of see this. So here is kind of the work stream. So we're going to see in September the presentation, questions, budget public hearing. So you can actually get involved if you're a citizen of Fort Collins, have desires for city funding or projects, and then it's going to go in front of City Council beginning of November for our first reading, and then second reading for adoption in January, end of November. And we're trying to have Travis Soren, the CFO of City of Fort Collins, on the podcast here at the end of July to really talk about it a little bit more and to provide some information, because it's roughly a $250 million annual budget. And it's increased quite a bit. And so super important, especially because some of the things that they were talking about in the budget was ARPA funds are going away. So there are some projects that are kind of sunsetting, and we don't have this surplus of revenue from the city. And so not a ton of new projects are necessarily going to be considered. And we really need to look at our expenses, because our expenses and inflation has gone quite a bit high. And here's an example from the city. So an electrical transformer used to be $3,300, and now pre-pandemic or post-pandemic, it's now $16,000, and it takes 113 weeks. So nearly over 2 years to have these sent to us, when it used to take basically 8 months. And then we have these high performance storm pipes, $14 per foot now to $26 per foot over a 5-year period. So construction projects, which essentially are one of the biggest costs for the city. They're a big, they are doing all of the infrastructure, utility, big ticket items. The Linden Street project, which was a capital improvement project that we saw come online last year. And, so those are going to be where the majority of the dollars go. And one of the main things that they were talking about was this Southeast Community Center, which is really going to start to take shape over the coming years. We're probably not going to go vertical on that for, I'd have to guess, 2 to 3 years. They're going to get into some design, requests for proposals, but the land and partnership between the Poudre River Library, Poudre School District, and City of Fort Collins has been established. The location has been decided on. The funding sources have been agreed on. The distribution and responsibilities have been, distributed. So that's definitely something that's in the conversations. And Kelly Olson was very adamant that he was saying, I don't want this half-cent sales tax to go towards, and the half-cent sales tax, my understanding is that it generates about $20 million additional in revenue a year, and 10 of it's going to go to Parks and Rec, and then 5 and 5 to climate and transportation. So a significant amount of increased revenue going towards Parks and Recreation, and some of those funds will be used for the Southeast Community Center. And he was very much opposed to that in the sense of, hey, these are supposed to go to maintenance and renovation of our current parks and recreations, new asphalt tops for rolling more tennis, parking lots, and aging equipment and facilities at these parks. Because if you've been to Fort Collins, you know how amazing all of our public parks are and access to them. So, and then Travis kind of, I actually thought he did just fine answering it, but Kelly and then Jenny aren't, and kind of the people were piggybacking, saying, "Hey, let's get the details of where these funds can be spent per ballot language, and come back with a more clear and transparent vision of where these dollars can be spent." Because a lot of people were like, "I'm not excited about money being spent from these tax dollars on the Southeast Community Center," except for Tricia Canonico, who represents District 3, which is in the southeast side of Fort Collins. But everyone else was kind of like, "Hey, no, this is our money." So 2025-26 budget cycle is upon us. We will have a lot of public outreach. Get involved. There are lots of different avenues to see where Fort Collins money is being spent, how it's being spent, and projects that are being spent on, which we are going to jump into right now. So these are going to be the community capital projects that will be, and these are just the major ones, the 17 major ones that will be complete over the next, basically year or so. All right, here we go. And let's do this instead. Okay. Dovetail Park at basically Bucking Horse, $4.6 million project. It is done. Mail Creek Trail on the southeast side, Stetson Creek area, all the way up through Timberline, under Timberline Road, and between Hanson, the reserve at Timberline and Willow Springs. And it ends at the Union Pacific train right there in Railroad, but will soon be connected by way of the Siphon Overpass. And they're expecting that to be complete in 2024. So they're kind of starting to do that project, and that will connect the Mail Creek Trail to the Power Trail, which then, super exciting, is going to have, let's see here, where is it? The Harmony Underpass. Harmony Timberline. Oh, I know it's on here. Interesting. Timberline I-25. Well, I do know there's another big project, which is the Harmony Underpass, where it's going to connect the Power Trail that is just to the northeast of Cruz Elementary, and it ends on the southeast side of Oak Ridge Village. And so then you have to take McMurray across Harmony Road. Harmony Road and McMurray is a big intersection, definitely dangerous for our, Vision Zero plan of zero fatalities and deaths or serious injuries by way on our roads in Fort Collins. So that project's taking place. Harmony, Timberline to I-25, that was a project that just was completed. It was an absolute pain in the ass for about a month as far as that road, but they crushed it. They went through and repaved that, milled it, 2-inch mill and overlay. So Harmony Road, basically from Timberline to I-25, looks awesome. Let's see here. Mason, again, there was some road construction there. Poudre Canyon raw water line. I think it was 500 linear feet of water line that was fixed, and then actually they fixed some leaks within the Poudre River as well. So a good project there. The Poudre River Trail extension. This is definitely a game changer. Now, I don't know how much of an economic highway that will be necessarily, but maybe it could be. It's essentially going to connect Bellevue all the way to Greeley through this Poudre River Trail, and one succinct trail system. And they're finally going to connect it. And it looks like they're going to try to have it done by this year, but really it looks like probably the beginning of next year. I had a friend who was coming to we did a client appreciation event at Maker's Bench in Timnath, and he was going to come from the northwest side all the way to Timnath. And I was like, I'm 99.9% sure this project's not complete. So I'm not sure how you traverse I-25, but here soon, literally it's a 44-mile stretch of trail system from Bellevue to Greeley. So phenomenal. It goes from Bellevue, LaPorte, Fort Collins, Timnath, Windsor, Greeley, and just absolutely phenomenal. Can't wait. Maybe my kids in 2025, we're actually getting pretty decent as far as on the trail system here. They went 7 miles by themselves, did a phenomenal job. East Vine, 9th Street to I-25, Oak Street Stormwater, that's a big number. And I just had some clients close on Oak Street. So they're going to be right in the middle of some headaches, some annoyances. But ultimately, they're going to add like 57 inlets, something along those lines, over this project. And this is like one of 4 major stormwater projects, utility projects underground that is going to help ease the flooding that's downtown. And so while it's not really apparent or to the eyesight, it will help with a lot of the home ownership down there when we do have substantial downpours and rains and the drainage system. So not a sexy project, very expensive, but apparently very, very needed. All right, Vine and Timberline intersection. It was kind of cool to hear. So I was talking with a client who is moving here potentially, and they're looking at kind of the Northfield development, and the LeMay overpass is really transitioning and transforming what that area is looking like. Suniga is just a complete development beehive right now. And the reason is that LeMay overpass is really opening up the desire to live there. You don't have to stop behind a train, easy access downtown, blah, blah, blah. Vine and Timberline, which is just basically a mile to the east, same railroad, same issues. Currently, it's a 4-way stop. So they're going to light the intersection. So they're going to have it in tandem and timing with the railroad, but hopefully a lot easier and smoother traffic, because the Mosaic development right there, Montava that's going to be happening. I mean, it is absolutely needed, and I'm sure sooner than later is going to have to be widened. And they said eventually, potentially, I'm sure, because there's still so much that could happen, an overpass there as well. So you could have an overpass at LeMay and Vine and at Timberline and Vine, which, again, with the development and push towards Northeast Fort Collins, could really dramatically impact that part of town. Let's see here, the LaPorte corridor. So essentially the bikeability sidewalks getting widened. It's really going to pretty much be from the Grandview Cemetery seemingly all the way west. So that bikeability section on LaPorte Avenue going to be very safe, secure, and attractive. College and Chilby intersection, that's happening right now. Definitely, it was a bottleneck of transportation. They're going to widen it, double lane turn from College, from Trilby onto College, all right-hand turns, widen it, better sidewalks, better bike and pedestrian kind of transportation right there. Siphon overpass, we talked about. Power Trail under Harmony. I was just blind. There it is. Power Trail under Harmony, $12 million, set to open 2025. Super stoked about that. Zach Elementary, safe rides to school. Safe ways, safe rides, SRTS. Basically just making it a little bit safer there, because Kechter is definitely a busy street. Friends and clients have bought in Observatory Village with the desire to go to Zach, but you have to go by Kechter. So definitely needed there as far as safely being able to cross that, especially with kind of the higher speeds, not too many stoplights or stop signs. Schoolside Park, that's the park that's going to be right next to the Mail Creek underpass, Bacon Elementary. So a cool community park there, $4.2 million. Fossil Creek Stream Rehab, Don't know too much about that, but it's supposedly the longest stretch of creek rehabilitation in Fort Collins. I think it's like 1.8 miles, and I could be wrong, but it's the longest stretch of creek rehab that they've done. And then the granddaddy of them all, the Southeast Community Center. Again, all these things that's already been approved, the partnership's in place. Now it's a matter of getting the design, conceptual, funding, timeline, and going vertical. So that's still the actual like development and use of that space years out, 3, 4, 5 years out, but will really transform Southeast. Oh, I wanted to show you this. This is really cool. I want you guys to see my screen. Here are where all of the projects are on a map. Pretty small. A lot of them are happening in the southeast side. This is the Bucking Horse Park that was done. Pooter Trail underpass is going to be kind of right there to the west of Drake Road, essentially directly west, because the Pooter Trail just comes all the way along the Pooter River right here and then right down that way. And you got some projects over here. You've got the Oak Streets, you've got the LaPorte, Trilby and Harmony. So a lot of cool projects happening in the southeast side of town. Very happy because that's where I live. So I'm seeing a lot of cool trail systems, overpasses, underpasses, connectivity, which is, super exciting living on this side of town. All righty. This week, 4th of July. So happy 4th of July. If you are watching this right now, I appreciate you spending the, half hour, 45 minutes, hour long with me. We are excited. We've got our in-laws in town again. They've been coming up for 4th of July. And here are some different things that you can do on the 4th of July. Stars and Stripes golf tournament at City Park, 7:30 a.m. I've never done that, so I don't know if you need to sign up in advance, how much you need to sign up in advance for it. The Firecracker 5K, we are doing that this year. Food truck rally starts at 7:30 a.m. and goes all the way to 9:30 p.m. I'm hopeful that they've got some breakfast options, but regardless, love the food truck rally. Independence Day parade, not going to, brag on the old wife by any means, but she's the grand marshal of this year's parade. All right, so not to get too personal, but a client said, hey, we're doing some research on you, or potential client, I can't remember. We were doing some research on you and did a Wikipedia, found out who your wife was, what she did, all that good stuff. And they go, your divorce was on her page. And I was like, oh, really? So I went and I looked at it, and it did say, married to Patrick Sukup, and I can't remember the times, and to the former CSU athlete Patrick Sukup in 2013, subsequently divorced, subsequently remarried, and expecting their first kid in 2018. So last time it was updated was that time. So I've aired all my business. I'm proud of that story. A lot of personal growth and development. We came closer and together, stronger. But she is a very prominent figure in Fort Collins. And I love that Fort Collins continues to pour into her because, having a bronze medalist. And a good story here shortly too. And Fort Collins is pretty cool. So she's going to be the grand marshal of that parade, 10 a.m. Let's see here. Family Fun Zone, trolley rides. We are considering now, especially after having done a week of public transportation, taking the Max Transit, which goes all the way until midnight on the 4th of July, down to City Park. And there's some free shuttles there as well, probably at the downtown transit center, and then take it back and not have to park down there. So makes me a little nervous with 3 little ones, maybe having to make a quick getaway for whatever reason. And being not stranded, but kind of limited on our transportation abilities. So I'm a little nervous, but excited about that. But trolley rides, you can take noon to 5 p.m. that day, live music, and then, of course, the fireworks that start at 9:35. There we go. So quick funny story to finish us off. You guys didn't see, I was just talking on the screen. Uh-oh. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Looks like my internet's kind of funky right now. But if you guys haven't, don't hear me, have a great day. But here's one quick story to send you off. We were watching the Olympic trials last night and love watching that. Amazing, athletes, women, men, doing some incredible things. There was a 100-meter hurdler that got third. She was a recent college graduate and said, I have been watching and wanting to be an Olympian since I was a little girl, watching the London Olympics in 2012. And me and Janae kind of looked at each other like, little girl? That was, I guess that was 12 years ago. And that was where, Janae competed at the 2012 Olympics and 2016 Olympics. But it was just kind of this, dang, getting old. And so it's kind of funny to hear somebody's perspective saying, watching the London Olympics when I was a little girl. So, I just want to say congratulations to my wife to be the Grand Marshal of this year's parade. All of her success is well-deserved, and she's the most humble person you'll meet. So if you have the opportunity, say hi. She'll say hi back. And cheer her on if you guys happen to be at the parade this weekend. So happy 4th of July. Stay safe. One of my best friends is a PA, and this is definitely one of their busiest weeks. So stay safe. Be careful. Watch your kids. Don't drink and drive. Take the Max Transit if you're in Fort Collins. We're considering doing that. But enjoy the time off. Enjoy the family. It's what it's all about. And thank you for watching today, and have a great day. Take care.